Thanks for tuning in to the Animal Control Report podcast, where we help debunk the dog catcher stereotype. A lot of times people think it's the dog catcher when they hear about animal control officers, but here on the Animal Control Report, we change that by taking you inside the day-to-day operations of animal control officers. Not only will you hear stories of animal control officers, but you'll hear from industry experts as well. We are also part of the Keep It Humane podcast network. We have some amazing partners there, so check them out at keepithumane.com/podcast network. You can listen to all the animal control and animal welfare related podcasts there. And let's continue to help people help animals. Welcome to another episode of the Animal Control Report with your hosts,
Ashlee Bishop
and Texas Bishop.
And I'm Daniel Ettinger. Please like, share, rate, do all that stuff that you're supposed to do with podcasts. You know, I was really excited, and I don't know how accurate this website is that rates podcasts, but we've all moved up to 38th in the country for pets and animals. So that's actually pretty good, I think.
Nice.
I think we're doing a good job, guys. So thank you for your contributions and participation way early this morning. How's it going out there, Wisconsin Bishop? You have to unmute too, by the way, just in case you wanted to learn how to use Zoom. Well, she doesn't know how to unmute, so we'll just go to Texas Bishop. How you doing over there? Who clearly knows how to use their computer?
It's early. It's good. It's hot. Texas is hot right now, and we've just been busy. We've had a lot of good rescue partners come and help us out, so it's given us some relief to help the community as much we can. But yeah, it's just been hot. And
you were outside all day yesterday, even though you spent all day.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much in the hottest point of the day. Yeah, we gave out 100 free rabies vaccines and 100 free microchips to our citizens at no cost to them. So it was a great event. It was a great turnout. We were getting people through the line really quick, and we've got it down to science, and we're hoping to continue this program and add more services down the line.
Love it. Okay, Wisconsin Bishop, thank you for unmuting and being part of this program.
Sorry about that. I thought I clicked the button again. I don't know. It's crazy over here. Something we'll have to
unpack,
delve into. Yeah,
look
later.
At you using AI verbiage. Every time you have ChatGPT try to write something, it'll say, let's delve into, and no one uses that word in real life except you.
I was going to say, I actually do use it periodically. So yeah.
Our guest also uses that.
I'm with you. In a minute. How are you, Dan?
Yeah.
I'm actually, this is the last leg of travel season for me. I'm going to be boarding a flight here in a couple hours to New Mexico. Super honored to be at the New Mexico Humane Conference. And it's, I'm going to be presenting smart shelters. So I'm really excited to see how that goes with that group. Because it's all shelter folks. It's not a ACO conference. So I'm really curious, and I'll give you my report after I get back. Things are good, settling into this new place. The beach is incredible. I just so grateful for all the stuff that's happening. And yeah, I'm excited. I don't know how else to put that into words, but there's a lot of good going on and want to continue with that momentum. So yeah. All right. Well, enough of the boring talk. I feel like I'm, what's the word when you're subdued? There's like a word for that.
Called jet lag.
It might be. It might be. I forget, where was I last? Where was I? Oh, San Antonio. I flew over your house.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah. So, well, let's introduce our guest. I'm happy to introduce Kim Alboum. And Kim is the Director of Field Operations for the Bissell Pet Foundation. I hope I got that right, because
you sure did.
Okay, cool. So most people, when they hear Bissell, they obviously think of the big green clean machine. At least I do. I'm old enough to remember that commercial. But Bissell does a whole other, there's this whole pet foundation, which is just incredible. And a lot of our listeners may not even know what that means, or what what it entails and how we can maybe even work with Bissell. So I guess for starters, can you give a little bit of background of like who you are, how you got involved in this pet foundation, and kind of what the pet foundation does?
Sure. So I started my animal welfare career actually working in volunteer positions to fight puppy mills. I worked with the Puppy Mill Awareness Day organization in Pennsylvania, and I was just, a volunteer for a breed specific rescue group, and I just kept feeling like I had to do more. I worked for the Humane Society of the United States for about 11 years. First as the North Carolina State Director, and then as the Director of Shelter Outreach. And yet I felt like I needed to do more for shelters. My heart has always been with animal shelters and animal control. And I'm really excited to be at Bissell Pet Foundation because our founder, Kathy Bissell, has created this foundation, which is now an operational foundation with the sole mission of supporting animal shelters, the pets, and the people caring for them. So I finally have found my exact fit for my own personal mission here at Bissell Pet Foundation.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So, like, what? I know that there's so much that Bissell can do.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing that I'm aware of, I guess I don't know what your guys's knowledge of it is I know that there's a lot of grants and things like that, which are obviously beneficial to everybody. I guess could we start there and talk a little bit about that, what's available there,
Sure.
and
So
then into some of the other things that are.
yeah. So Bissell Pet Foundation was originally mostly a grant writing foundation. And then, but Kathy was feeling the pull more and more to be operational. So we operate now out in the field and still doing some level of grants. So our core programs are our Fix the Future program, which is a contract veterinary spay neuter program. And that has actually at this time replaced our spay neuter grants. And the reason why, and you guys will understand this, is that it became very frustrating. We were giving out money for spay neuter and we were getting money back because the
Weren't enough
shelters
vets.
didn't have the veterinarians and didn't have the services available. So out of frustration, Kathy was just like, we have got to do something. Can't we just hire vets and do a contract veterinary program? And so we said, all right, let's give this a shot. Let's see what we can do. So now we have over 200 contracted veterinarians nationwide, and we hit our 38,000 surgery last week since November.
Of
So
this year?
Phenomenal.
So when you talk about all the things Bissell Pet Foundation can do, that was a really good point, Ashlee, because we change our mission. Well, we change our programming to go along with where the industry needs us the most. And right now, where they need us the most is adoption, our Empty the Shelter event, where we just did an outstanding event. I think it was our largest event to date, and it was like more than 35,000 pets adopted in July. So we have that. And then we have our Fix the Future program, which I will tell you is phenomenal. It is an absolutely amazing program that's just growing and growing. And then, of course, let's not forget disaster and crisis. So we have our animal incident management program where we partner with ASAR and other groups around the country, which creates mission ready packages for communities for disaster and crisis response. So a crisis can be anything from we have to evacuate our shelter because there's some type of a protest for something else in our community, or we've just taken in a puppy mill case, or we have a hurricane coming. Animal incident management works with shelters all over the country and other organizations to create, again, this mission ready package that we can walk in and help shelters from beginning to end without coming in and taking over. It's really just a support program for shelters.
Can I say something, Kim? I think you brought up a great point that I don't think I hear very often from large partners like yourselves. When you stated that you are forming programs on what the necessity is for the time being and changing as those things come, which kudos to y'all, because I feel like a lot of the industry kind of keeps staying on the same track and are focusing on the same thing all the time, when we all know, boots on the ground, things change. Like right now we're in the crisis where we're at overpopulation. Well, what do we need to do to help that? Well, we need spay and neuter programs. So kudos to y'all for being forward in that thinking. That's really awesome. That's really, really awesome.
Yeah, we're really proud of it. And again, our founder, her mission was to help shelters, not create her own agenda to, spread throughout the country, right? So her mission was, how can I save lives? How can I support the people that are caring for the pets? So our other program that is significant is our transport program, which, as you guys know, transport all over the country is very complicated right now, and it's beginning to dwindle. So we're working really hard on that and trying to find innovative ways to be able to continue to move the pets that need to be moved, not necessarily the ones that are going to get adopted where they are, although those do get caught up in the mix sometimes. We're really trying hard to figure out, how can we move large dogs? Where can we move them? And how can we get the community in there to adopt them? So that's the focus of our transport.
It's refreshing to hear this. And again, first of all, for our listeners, BissellPetFoundation.org. Again, BissellPetFoundation.org. Check it out. Check out the website. There's a lot on there. Again, if people weren't familiar before and they just hear the name Bissell, they think maybe vacuums and such. I want to take my hat off to you and to Kathy as well. And I think as we see animal welfare in this country, and something you said, and I know it wasn't maybe direct to anyone in specifically, but the agenda should be focused on what you're focusing, which is access to care, providing these the ability for veterinarians to practice. Do you do anything, or is there anything in the works to provide like scholarship opportunities for our up and coming veterinarians, for people that may or may not, like, maybe I'll be a vet or a vet tech, but I can't be a vet because it costs $750,000 or whatever. It's close. It's not that close, but it's a couple $100,000 to become a veterinarian. So is there long-term goals in that aspects to maybe encourage our up and coming veterinarians to be a veterinarian and to know that there's some assistance?
So it's interesting that you ask that, because that has been, everyone's talking about that right now. How do we get people into vet school and get them out the other side into shelter medicine? So no, do we have plans right now? We do not. Are we fostering those relationships? Absolutely, 100%. We are inviting young vets to participate. I don't know what this program is going to look like over the course of next year and the year after, because right now we are just solely focused on doing as much spay neuter as we possibly can in animal shelters and in communities that need us the most. So is that fostering, folks to get excited about shelter medicine? I do think so. I do think that that we are pushing people more towards shelter medicine. I can tell you, Kathy fosters a lot of relationships with young vets. Are we doing scholarships? Are we moving in that direction? No, we're a small foundation right now. We just want to spay and neuter everything we can, because the numbers are devastating, actually. And we're trying to save lives through this program, through spay neuter.
And what I like is that focus is where the issue lies. And that we talk about it probably too much on the show, but I guess I can't get away from our personality here is, people can have any sort of slogan that they want. The reality of this current state is the only way we get to a better life for all is to, provide this access to care, to make sure that we are spaying and neutering. I mean, it's nothing new. All of you probably remember Bob Barker. I mean, he was telling us since the 1980s to spay and neuter our pets. I mean, it's bizarre to me, and it's not even bizarre. I think we've come to a point, and we're right here. We're teetering on that edge, that verge, and I'm going to bring up something that I'm sure both bishops are tired of hearing. But we have to push that pendulum a little bit to the other side. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people still see animals as property.
And the
And
law makes them property.
the law, and that's kind of where, that's a good segue, as we say in radio. The law does, they do, and I think what we need to do is we have to find ways to incorporate all the major players. So whether it's AKC, ASPCA, HSUS, Bissell, whoever else, and find ways to lobby to have pets seen differently in this country. And I've said it on the last couple episodes, and I guess I'm not going to stop saying it. I'm just going to get on my soapbox. Is if we found a way to encourage, and what's the word when you reward somebody for something? Reward. Look at you.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah. Clicker training.
So if we found a way to reward responsible pet ownership by basically allowing people, and we could iron out all the details, but my first thought is like up to 2 pets that you could claim on your taxes if they're spay and neutered, have a current rabies vaccination, and probably microchipped and licensed. And that change, not only does it add like an incentive to being a pet owner, but then it changes how we view animals in this country, because now we are starting to actually capture what they are. They have become, and they are, family members. And so if we can go down that rabbit hole of like, how do we make that happen? And I'm going to continue to put it out there until it gathers some more momentum, because I think I bring it up in classes that I teach. I've brought it up here on the podcast, and no one's truly, and Kim, if you feel this way, you won't hurt my feelings. You won't hurt my feelings. No one's truly been like, Daniel, that sounds ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. I do want to say one thing about policy, though. I know that the national organizations work on policy, and they're good. HSUS, ASPCA. But I will say this, there is no voice in each state, in each community, that's stronger for animals than our animal shelters. And part of what you want to achieve with policy is reasonable. Identifying pets not as property, as family, they're sentient beings. But legislators want to hear from their community. Legislators want to hear from the people that are professionals for animals in their community. And I really wish that shelters would come together even more than they already have, and really be that voice for animals, because they have the ability to create change where nationals just don't. Legislators don't want to hear from some group that's coming in from another place to tell them how to handle animals, but they want to pick up the phone and call their local animal shelter when something comes across their desk that pertains to animals. So those relationships with animal shelters and their elected officials are so vital to animals all over the country. And the way to achieve what you're talking about achieving is through our shelters stepping up and making those relationships so that they can answer those questions.
And asking our shelters to step up is absolutely key here. However, they've also got a lot on their plates right now.
They do.
So with that being said, what Bissell is doing with the spay neuter hopefully would take some of that pressure off of the shelter so that they could step up and choose this other endeavor. I kind of want to go back to that program a little bit and take a look at what that looks like. Is that you said there's 200 veterinarians across the United States that do this. So is this like hey, we contact Bissell and say, can you come in for like a week and just do a mass spay neuter of anybody that wants to come in, and you send the resources, or how does that work?
It's not in a box.
Okay.
So we have over 200 veterinarians licensed in, I think, I don't even know how many states we're licensed in now. I definitely think we've exceeded 35. I haven't looked lately because it changes every day. So let's take Jefferson Parish in Louisiana, for example. Michelle Brignac amazing, amazing shelter director, wanted to do more shelter pets faster. And she also wanted to do community pets. So we send veterinarians in there that are actually doing both. So she picks the dates that work for her. We put the call out to veterinarians and they come in. We're hoping that we're creating love matches. So we're trying to get vets in the States to go back to the same shelters over and over. And people chuckle when I say a love match, but that's really what they are, because what we're finding is these vets are going into these shelters and just loving doing this work. Is it 1 day a week? Sometimes. Is it 3 days a week? Absolutely. Sometimes too. We're in Southern Pines multiple days a week, helping them. We're in Arkansas. We're everywhere. Now, if you want to do a high volume 3 days, like let's say you want to bring in extra vets and just hit it hard in the community, we can do that too. It doesn't matter, because what we're doing is we are paying the veterinarian, high volume veterinarian, the day rate for that day. So whatever event you're doing is fine with us, as long as we can find a veterinarian that fits.
I'm speechless at how awesome that is. Honestly.
It really is. Here's what we can't do. Let me tell you what we can't do. We don't do MASH units. That is not our thing. We don't move equipment. We don't know how to do that. We don't want to do that. We
That'd be a huge
only send
liability.
veterinarians and techs when needed in to do it. Now, that being said, we now have organizations that do MASH clinics and do that work that have jumped on board with us, and we're paying their veterinarians for them to go and do MASH clinics in different places on reservations in New Mexico and Colorado. We're really excited about that. So when I say it's not in a box, it really isn't in a box. You tell us what you're trying to do, and we're going to see if we can find a veterinarian to help you do it. Whatever you need.
What's the average turnaround time?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question. It depends on where you are.
Okay.
Okay. It depends on where you are. And remember, we went through this time where everybody was like, where's the vets? Where's the vets? There's no vets out there. They're out there. They just don't want to work full time, and they don't want to deal with the community. They had been beaten down to a point where they were just finished. So now we have this list of these veterinarians that they don't want to work full time. They want to work 10 to 15 days a month. Now, that being said, when it's summertime, when you're a part-time worker, when do you take the most time off? In the summer. So we have found that summertime turnover has been a little bit longer, but when there's an emergency, we always seem to have a vet step up. It's just, we just had a vet in Arizona for 2 weeks that stayed longer because there were 200 rabbits that needed to be done.
Wow.
I mean, these vets are amazing. They just wanted the opportunity to do it when they wanted to do it on their terms.
I like watching Ashlee down there at the bottom of the screen, because she's putting her thoughts together, and I could see some of the smoke starting to fester, and her eyes were starting to get real bright.
Why did it take so long?
Why do you? I don't know. Because you want to formulate you don't want to be like me and just
no.
Stupid.
Why did it take so long for somebody to come up with this solution?
Because everybody else is greedy. Ooh, did I say that?
We came to it out of frustration.
Thank you.
We just came to it out of frustration, and we had no idea what this program was going to be.
How long has this been doing? How long have you had this going?
The frustration peaked last August, a year ago. And by November, we were sending vets out every week. And now we're doing, I think last month was like 200 surgical days, which means there were 200 full days of surgery taking place in that month.
Wow. I am just honestly just speechless, Kim. I wasn't too sure, I'm familiar with Bissell, y'all do a lot of work down south where I'm from. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. So that's where I started my journey in animal welfare. But I can't tell you how refreshing it is. And I'm sure for the other two, I don't want to speak for them, but how refreshing it is to hear you speak the way you speak about the industry and what you're trying to do. I feel like a lot of our bigger, larger organizations are still not in this mindset yet. And kudos to y'all. You know, my heart is big talking to you and hearing the things that you're doing and the mentality behind it too. I think it's just, you know, I'm honestly really speechless. Like it's really good to hear everything that you're saying. I just, you know,
Thank you.
it's been a rough week for me, and it's refreshing to just hear this and where y'all are trying to take it.
Well, I'll say with all certainty that you can speak for me in that moment. And I will say this, that some of these agencies make it seem more about fundraising than it actually is about providing the access to care that we need. Now, I understand fundraising is part of the necessity to be able to perform these tasks, but it doesn't seem that's Bissell's focus. Every time I see something on LinkedIn or somewhere else, it's all about results, results. I can't say that word fast enough. And that's what's cool, is like, we're a results motivated industry. We need to know that at the end of the day, the more animals and the more people we can help, then on the back end, things change. And we can't change things on the back end without fixing the front end. It's like having a dam and only, I don't know how this analogy would work. If you have a dam, but you're not stopping the water coming through, you're just putting sandbags, the water's still going to come through at some point. Maybe
It's a
that's the
very
analogy.
frustrating time.
It
You
is.
know, I just want to say about fundraising, we're a small foundation, but what stretches us further than you would anticipate is that we don't pay salaries. We don't have any of that. All of that is funded by Bissell. So Bissell Pet Foundation, every dime that goes into Bissell Pet Foundation actually goes to shelters and animals. So our smaller budget than the big guys stretches further, but every dime that comes into it is going to go back out. So we're not going to reach the end of the year and put money away. We're going to reach the end of the year and say, well, how are we going to spend this? And that's what I love about this organization, Kathy, is just, you know, we work for you guys, we work for the animals, and that's what we're doing.
So what do y'all see in the future? You know, what are some of the plans that Bissell has, you know, beyond, you know, what they're doing right now with Empty the Shelters, your spay and neuter program? You know, what do y'all see as the future for the organization overall?
Well, we're going to keep twisting and bending to what you guys are doing out there in the field. But what I see coming forward is I see a time where our focus is going to be even harder on local level adoptions. I see a time where intrastate transport programs are going to be stronger and better than these long range transports. I think that people want to adopt from the shelter. I think some people are afraid of it. We've scared them away with our language and our euthanasia lists, and we're gonna, you know, we've scared them. And I think part of what we need to do moving forward is we need to get the community back. And, you know, we're going to figure out how to help you guys do that. And we're going to do that. We're going to continue to spay neuter. We're going to continue to transport where we can. And we're going to focus hard on crisis and disaster, because even this last disaster with Tropical Storm Debbie, huge lessons learned in it, that there's still shelters that are just completely not ready. And shelters are also still relying on picking up the phone and saying, hey, come and get my animals. There's a storm coming. And we can't. Like, I would love to send a giant helicopter in and take everybody's animals, but there's no place to put them. So what we did was a national communication that has gone to other groups, other national organizations, gone to government agencies, that gives alternatives to transport. So animal incident management, our program isn't just about coming in and dealing with the situation at hand. We're also doing a lot of educating. So I see that as a big part of the future. I see, and I don't even know that educating is the right word. We're just finding ways to support these shelters that don't have the support, and trying to get them to implement some of these programs that maybe they think that they can't, right? So that's going to be a big part of our future, because we can't save lives unless they have the resources that they need to do it. And a lot of them don't realize they have the resources right there in their community. So we're going to work on that.
And I think that's a really good point too. You know, the shelter I work for currently right now is fairly not fairly new. I mean, we're in our 12th year, I think, you know, whereas most of the shelters are already established, you know, but when I first got into the industry, you know, the rhetoric back then, which is, you know, almost 15, 16 years ago now, was, well, you're a government owned shelter, you know,
Mm,
you can't ask for money. You
yeah.
know, you're paid by the city tax dollars, your salary is paid by the city tax dollars. And the reality is, you know, and like I tell my community now is we're not a money making department. You know, I'm not here to make money off your pets. If you need that $10 microchip for free just because you need that and it's going to help us get your animal home in the field rather than it coming to the shelter, take it. Take your
Mhm.
animal out of my facility. You know, it's costing me more money in employees, supplies, and everything to house this animal longer just for me to, you know, hold on to this animal because you can't afford that $10. Please take your animal, take it home. Here's some of the resources. We're doing an event, you know, and I think that's where a lot of, at least in my opinion, where government shelters really struggle, you know, is, you know, well, we're paid by the city tax dollars. There's only so much we can do when, you know, that's really not the reality. So it's also educating them on what resources there are out there and how you can ask for those resources so that you can engage and put that back into your communities.
100%. And you know, and then let's take that just one step further. When you do that, when you put the microchip in that animal and you give that animal the resources and that animal goes home, that animal needs to count toward your numbers that you're reporting at your animal shelter, because that when you touch those animals, you're keeping them out of the shelter. And I know that there are a lot of smart people working on ways that we're going to do that, but I am very frustrated that organizations like Greater Birmingham Humane Society, that's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on surgeries to keep pets at home, is still criticized for their live release rate when there are, I mean, the work that they're doing in the community to keep pets out of their shelter is absolutely phenomenal. It's heroic. And yet they're criticized because of their live release rate numbers when they are the hero for the state. They're taking in the dangerous animals, they're taking in the cruelty case animals, they're taking in the animals that medically just cannot come out the other side. So how do we get those numbers to count? And so when you put in that microchip, that's another life saved.
Well,
And
and
when,
honestly,
yeah, I just wanted to transition into that aspect of, has this foundation thought about anything regarding providing resources to the boots on the ground, the field officers? So a lot of animal control are directly employed by or work through an animal shelter. And so a lot of the things, intake diversion, if you will,
Mhm.
based on providing resources that are available, educating, maybe even providing grants for training for officers or other grants that maybe officers need. Has there been any talk, or is there any focus on maybe crossing over into not necessarily? I know like the focus is multifaceted no matter what, however you want to look at it, but also trying to encourage those officers to think a little differently by providing those resources that we don't have.
Absolutely. So we are doing that. We have a mentorship program. It's not as large and widespread as we would like it to be at this point, but it's something that we do work on a regular basis. If there's an organization that reaches out to us that needs training on intake diversion, we're going to figure out how to do that. And we're going to do that through our national network. Our animal incident management program has a national network of animal shelters that are absolutely incredible. And we utilize them to train other animal shelters, because I don't really care what anyone says at this point. If you haven't been working in an animal shelter in the last 5 years, you have no idea what it's like. And so what we do with our training programs is we pull these amazing people out of animal shelters all around the country, and we fund them to go to train. So that's how we're doing that, Daniel. And that is we're hoping to continue to expand that. We're pushing it very hard right now in Louisiana. But intake diversion is something that we get asked about all the time, and we have some great resources for that. And I don't know if you guys know Mike Wheeler
Yeah,
at
of course.
Cabot Animal Support Services in Arkansas. Poor Mike. Mike has been on the talk circuit for the last year because he just does so well. with intake diversion in his program in that community. So we've been actually leaning on Mike for Zoom and in-person training.
And I think we here on the show are happy to support it however we can. Both avenues, if you think about it, like we talk about a lot of shelter related things. We just know that I think what we've found, and since Texas Bishops didn't want to speak for others, I'm not going to speak for others. I'll speak for myself. Over the years, I've been in this industry for a while. And I'm grateful and truly feel privileged that I'm able to go around the country and meet other ACOs and shelter workers and such. I'm grateful, blessed, if you will. It feels like the main focuses are not on the field, that the field is, lack of better words, neglected when it comes to this movement that we have to really make an impact and make a change. I know there are certain focuses and groups like us, you know, the Humane Educators of Texas really focus that, they push that field stuff as well. They're also paying me every time I say their name, so they just don't know that yet. But in all fairness, like these are interconnected. The, you know, the not only the aspects from the resources, education, and feeling supported, but it's also interconnected on how the community sees us as a profession. The community still, in a lot of ways, sees it as the dog pound and the dog catcher. And we had a few episodes back where it kind of blew my mind when we talked about shelter animals count, saying that there was data showing, sorry, that's a loud motorcycle in the neighborhood, it's fine. The data showing that only 20% of people adopt animals or get animals from an animal shelter. And so every time I'm out, you know, I live, I'm going to do this as a, what do they call this? When it's like when you like, it's not a shameless plug. It's something else when you like, oh, it's a flex. When I go to the dog beach, and that's what it is. That's a flex. When I go to the dog beach and see all the dogs running around, I look around and I'm like, yeah, that's a dog that someone got from a breeder. That's another breeder. That's another. So like, it's actually blows my mind because I'm so jaded to the fact that animal shelters, I'm like, everybody gets their pet from an animal shelter. I work at an animal shelter. Why wouldn't everybody do that? And so, you know, there's this thought process. And now we just had a rescue transfer a dog from Texas to Colorado that was positive for rabies. And so when people see articles like that, or people see this dog was adopted from a shelter and mauled somebody, et cetera, then it's like they don't trust us as much as we should get that trust. And so
Negative.
I try to reel it back into the aspects of like, I think we change that image on both levels, the field and the shelter, and trying to find that support to bring it all together is important.
Negative media, unfortunately, is more powerful than positive. So
yeah, and
say positive.
I did say positive.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, to preface on that, you know, I see it every day. You know, there's another organization, you know, locally to us that, you know, have better live release, you know, numbers than we do. And, you know, what I tell everybody, and I've said this plenty of times on the show and in different episodes, is all animals count, all the way from the possum to the raccoon to the owl, the egret, or whatever that we picked up that, you know, unfortunately we couldn't help, or whatever, count towards our numbers. And I wish that the industry would follow that suit. Everything counts. Everything absolutely counts. It doesn't matter how it came in, or how it's leaving or whatever. It needs to count towards your numbers. You need to be honest with your communities, so that way they can see all the good that you're doing, you know, and understand the struggle that we go through on a daily basis. You know, we just had somebody the other day call one of my officers a dog catcher, and, you know, my assistant supervisor was very strict. Well, I'm not a dog catcher, ma'am. I'm an animal control officer. I'm a professional in this field, you know, and it's disheartening sometimes when, you know, we continue to see that rhetoric throughout the industry and throughout the community.
They're first responders. They need to be treated as first responders. I mean, that's, you know, and that's what we push. And that's what we try when we do send out resources for training for animal control. I mean, that's that level of customer service and problem solving in the field is what we're really trying to push. We had Pasco County Animal Shelter, Spencer Conover sent a couple of his animal control officers down to St. Landry to do some training for us. And it's, the diversity is really incredible. And it's really just a matter of getting together and learning what's possible, because I really think that a lot of these small rural communities where animal control officers are just treated like dog catchers, I think they've just been beaten down to a point where they don't know what's possible. So
It's bigger than, trust me,
yeah,
I'm saying this
let's
with
show them.
intimate knowledge. It's bigger than rural communities. I will tell you this, and it's something that I don't know. I don't know how to help it. But I'll tell you that I've seen too many animal control officers that are just burned out and happy with the being able to do the bare minimum to just get by,
Sure.
because they're like, well, they make these excuses. Well, if we send that court to case, it's just going to get pleaded or dismissed. We don't do this because in the past this happened. And so everybody is like in this trauma bubble of like, well, why even try? And it's like, I've worked with animal control officers that their favorite answer is no. Like, hey, we should probably look at maybe doing something that, no, that's not going to work because it didn't work 10 years ago. And so they get into this like, oh my goodness, like everything is horrible and I'm just hanging on so I can get my full retirement. Like that's what I see. And when I started in this industry in 2010, I remember going into work and hearing one of the first things out of these guys' mouths were, because I was all excited. I'm like my generation and beyond, people get into this job because they actually want to do it. The people that my predecessors were like, hey, I worked for the garbage part of the city, and then this paid a little more, and so I wanted to make sure I had a better retirement because there's a pension. And so we had a lot of that. And I think that personality rubs off on others, the youngsters that may not have those strong personalities to make their own opinions of these situations. So we need more people really fighting to make change. And I hear that, Kim, all the time at trainings when I talk about like, hey, challenge your prosecutor, do this, do that. And it's like, well, in the past this happened, and they don't want to fight anymore. And it's sad. It's sad.
I feel like we have to fight to elevate them, because they're not going to want to do it if they haven't felt what success feels like. And this has happened to me so many times in the field, especially when I was working cruelty cases in North Carolina. We did puppy mill case after puppy mill case. And once they get a taste of success, and once they see how the community views them after they achieve something like taking down a puppy mill, or saving a pet, and it's something that we celebrate and talk about, their attitude changes and they move forward in a completely different direction. But how do you do that when you're tired and you're beaten down all the time? And I know that there's some people that are in this industry, they shouldn't be. They don't care. They don't care about animals. But I think that the number of people that are in this industry is far greater that haven't been celebrated and haven't shared a success and are moving forward in a way that is, I'm just doing it, but it's not going to work. That to me is heartbreaking.
It is. And it's unfortunately a cycle that I feel is hard to break out of when we're still very much in the era of dog catcher, dog pound, that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So, and I feel it, again, I think all three of us here have been on at least a decade or more in this industry. And, not too many people last as long as we do. It's 1.5 years, 2 years or something, because it gets disheartening. When just the simplest thing that is cut and dry case and it's just thrown out the wind.
I agree.
know I've felt that here in the last couple of weeks. It is, but we got to keep fighting the good fight. And everybody just needs to come together. Sometimes it just gets frustrating to see everybody's own agendas and yeah.
Well, and one of the other things too is as much of the industry that is trying to push forward there are, people within command and things like that that are trying to hold us back. That, you know, I've seen where they're actually regressing completely in how they are going to operate and handle animal control.
Oh.
Sorry, my cat disconnected my microphone for a second. um in how they handle animal control and going from, okay, we actually have somebody dedicated to the investigation portion, but actually, just kidding, we're going to go back to you being mostly just a dog catcher, um, which is equally frustrating.
Just saying dog catcher just makes my heart just like,
Yeah.
Right. Especially when it's a first responder. And I think, one of the ways to combat the negativity is through successful customer service, getting the community behind the shelter, no matter how small, no matter what it is. And I think, and I know it's hard, especially when you're feeling you're just not in a good place because you're feeling beaten down. But I truly believe that the way out of this is through successes. The way to get the community back into the shelter is through professionalism, good customer service, and showing them our successes, being vocal about our successes.
Agreed. On top of that, just the being honest. The honesty that comes with the industry. I think there's a lot of lack.
Transparency.
Yeah, it's just, we can't sugarcoat things. We just can't. The reality of where our industry is right now is we're in crisis. We really
Everywhere.
are. Yeah.
Everywhere.
We really are. And, I'm very forthcoming with our community, and we're very transparent about, what outcomes could be, and we do our best and we try and we have all the rescue partners and all that stuff. But, the reality is dogs are not moving right now. They're just not. And, and it's a struggle to not slap people in the face because they're not in our shoes. They don't understand, and that's difficult. But again, too, on the other side of that, our term education before citation. We're very much a department that is here to educate rather than give them a citation right away. This is what you need to fix. This is what you need to do. And just being that agency that, and Kim, you keep saying community or customer service. And, I can't tell you how much we don't hear that, at least in the field, and that people don't realize that they need to be emotionally intelligent in situations and de-escalation and those types of things. Customer service is a big thing of what we do, and then to change people's minds and opinions of the industry overall.
But I know we're not in a good place right now. And I know we're in a place where every day is a crisis. We are fighting to save lives. All of us are. That's the one thing that we all have in common, right? No matter how we're doing it, we're all fighting to save lives. But just take a minute and think about how far we've come as an industry. And I know that you guys are on the ground, you're doing it every day. And sometimes you just don't pick up your head to celebrate yourselves and see how far that we have come. I mean, this industry has professionalized. The vast majority of shelters and animal control agencies view pets as sentient beings. When I first got into this industry, I was shocked at the way animals were treated in some of our animal shelters. They're gone. I know there's a few left out there, but they're the minority and they're getting squeezed out. They're going to get squeezed out. And so I know we're working hard, and I know we're trying to move forward, and I know that euthanasia has increased and adoption is down, but there's so many brilliant people in this industry. We're going to get through this. We just have to keep going.
Yeah.
We can't lose any more good people. We can't. And we are. And that to me is the most heartbreaking thing for the animals right now, is the loss of people that are leaving because they're not seeing the other side of this. There is going to be another side of it.
I really hope that we get a lot of listeners on this particular episode, because just hearing about what Bissell is doing has kind of uplifted me into like, okay, somebody is starting to get it and focus on it and help us, whether it be indirectly or not. And so I really hope that we can pass along the information and get your program even more successful than it already is. You said what, 3,500 animals already in less than a year?
No, 38,000
38.
since November.
Oh, Jesus. That I was way off. 38,000.
Yeah, and again, it's nothing crazy. It's just supporting the shelters that need it the most with high volume veterinarians. And yeah, it's been amazing. I just think about all the lives saved that is, and the residual impact of it is amazing.
It is. And as we dwindle down the episode, Kim, what is it that you want our listeners who are mostly the animal control, profession, who do mostly work in shelters and things like that, but some of them on our own. What is it that you want to tell them, and what Bissell's trying to do for the industry? How can they get in contact if they're needing something, or they know that their shelter is needing something? Tell us all the good things and all the contacts that they need in order for them to get in contact with y'all who are awesome. Kim, I can't tell you how refreshing it has been to speak with you, honestly.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. I think the one thing that I would say to all the animal control officers out there is celebrate your successes, talk about it, push it out. Your first responders, act that way. You got this. You've got to keep moving forward, because without you, you're the first point of rescue. Without you guys, we're in trouble, and we need you, and you can't keep leaving. You've got to stay strong. You've got to keep moving forward. That's my message for animal control. And the same for shelters. I know it's hard right now, but let's keep talking about the success and let's keep pushing hard. We're in crisis. We have to be transparent. We have to talk about the fact that euthanasia is increasing. We have to talk about the fact that our shelters are full, but we can do it in a way that we also are talking about the things that we're doing to combat this and the things that we're doing to save animals every day. And I think that that's important. If anybody wants to reach out to me at Bissell Pet Foundation, they can reach me at kim.alboum, which is ALBOUM, at bissell.com. You can also find my contact information on our website. And I would say the one thing to look for from us in the future is just, we're going to continue to try to support you, and we're going to continue to try to save lives. And by God, we're going to continue to try to save large dogs, because we are all struggling so hard with large dogs. And I don't know if you guys know this, but my boss has 5 of them, and they all come from animal shelters, and she is obsessed with large black dogs. So this is something that is so important to us at Bissell Pet Foundation. And I know what you're going through, and I know how hard it is, and I know how hard it's been on the staff. We're also offering compassion fatigue quarterly, free. So if anybody is interested in that, they can email me on that. It's a wonderful workshop that's 4 weeks long, 2 days a week for an hour each time. And we think that that's really important, and it is specific to shelters. And of course, if animal control is affiliated with the shelter, that would work for them as well. We could also look at doing just a specific animal control compassion fatigue. I would be really open to that. And then the other thing I just want you to know that I think is really important as we're heading into disaster season, that our animal incident management team is ready. If there's anything that we can do for you, please email me. We work very closely with ASAR. Eric Thompson is our executive director of animal incident management. And so we're here for anything that you need.
That's fantastic. And we'll have all of that in the show notes. So if you guys are, listening while you're driving, don't worry about writing it down. You can check the show notes. That'll all be there. Kim, thank you so much for this information. like I said, I thought it was just all grants. Um, but I think what you guys are doing is actually a whole lot more beneficial than just grants because you're getting to the root of the problem and and providing the help that way. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. Um, check out the website, guys. There's even if you know, don't need anything, they've got a whole lot of swag and different things out there that you guys can purchase. And it looks like I'm sure that helps and goes back into the foundation and
Buy a vacuum cleaner.
buy a vacuum cleaner.
When you buy Bissell products, you help pets, and they are the best products.
They are. I
That's
got all my
actually-
products are Bissell.
And I mean, if you have pets at home, you need a vacuum cleaner.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes. But yeah, guys, BissellPetFoundation.org. There's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great toolkits too that I've seen. Canva templates, which are great, for a small organization like us who just has a one-man team who does all the things of rescue, foster, social media, all the things. Shout out to my programs coordinator, Diane. She does all the things. Please check out their website for all the great things that are going on at Bissell Foundation. There's a lot of good information if you're just starting off at on your social media. They have great little toolkits and just little graphics and things like that that you can use. But Kim, again, I can't tell you how refreshing it is to speak with you going into a week or last week and the week before. Just it's been a tough couple of weeks for both Ashlee and I. So it's very refreshing to talk to somebody with a platform like yours and Bissell Foundation, and kudos to y'all's creator, and for all the good things that she's doing for our industry.
yes,
Well, thank you guys, and thank you for having me. It's been fun.
absolutely. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. Dan's taking his doggo to the where was he going? Yeah,
He's going pet sitter. He's traveling this week
again.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks everybody for listening. Check out us on Spotify, YouTube. You can see our faces, Facebook, you name it. Reach out to us. Let us know if any of you guys have actually utilized any of the services from Bissell. And I would love to hear from anybody to hear their side of boots on the ground of how well it worked. Like, was the program easy to use? Things like that. So reach out to us if you guys have used it. We'll get you on and talk to you about it. That'd be fantastic. So, and as always, help animals or help people. Help animals. Why did Dan change this?
This is always great. Every time he leaves. I can't wait for him to edit this out.
Oh, I think he's absolutely going to leave this in.
Oh, he is. He's going to do that to us.
Just keep it humane.
Keep it humane, and we'll see you guys next week.